All right, folks. Here we go. First and foremost, let's just get it all out the way. Hail to the Redskins. Hail victory. Braves on the warpath.
Yes.
Fight for all DC. Woo! Woohoo! Woo! We
It's been
kicked
a
it off
long
with a
time.
jump. Woo! How about, and I'm gonna call them the Redskins, the Commanders, whatever it is. I didn't care what they called themselves. I just wanted them to win games. If the Commanders work, damn it, just keep using it. All right, we went going to an NFC Championship game. Very much can beat but either the Rams or the Eagles. Very beatable teams that I have full confidence that we can go and handle our business. Whether we got to go to Philly, whether we got to go to LA. Oh my! And I said it. I said it at the beginning. I'm not getting excited about Jaden Daniels until I see some playoff wins because I lived through the RG3 situation. I lived through the Gus Farrar situation. I lived through the Brad Johnson years. I lived through the Mark Brunell years. I lived through the damn, oh my God, the Jim Zorn, the Jason Campbells, all that. I have lived through all of that. And I could officially be excited because we will be competing in an NFC Championship game. That's what I'm talking about, Dan Quinn. Woo! I had to get that off my chest.
It
And
hasn't
the
happened
thing is, the
since
great
when,
thing is, I'm
1980.
talking to another Redskin fan. So we just, I mean, we're going to put the work stuff. Trust me, I know you're here. Stay hard Sunday. We're going to get there. But we have lived through some things as a Redskins fan. I'll let you go ahead and get it off your chest, too. So, yes.
It's
Yes.
about time. Excuse the
It's
French.
about damn time. All right. We can start now. Weekly Stay Hired Sunday, folks. Welcome back like we do every single Sunday before football starts. We come on here, we speak for about 30 minutes in terms of how to make yourself a whole lot more of a valuable employee. If it's your first time tuning in, my name is Aswan Crookshank, one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and 5-time published author and educator. And what I've created these plus LY pencils that you see on the screen, Move Swiftly. It's all about taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and applying them to businesses. Kimberly, go ahead and make your introduction.
Hi. Well, I'm sitting here trying to get Athena to stop barking. So, welcome to the Athena show
Yes.
today. Um,
Athena's her dog, by the way, guys.
yes, my German Shepherd. She's
Yes.
being pretty mouthy right now. I'm Kimberly,
Mhm.
Art HR Solutions, helping businesses come up and rise with greatness by solving workplace solutions. Nice to
Okay,
be
let's get it.
here this Sunday.
Yes, sorry if I cut you off there, but we gotta get into this, man. This is and I just came out from church, and the pastor made a mention to something that was fairly profound. He said this is officially the third Sunday of the new year. For me personally, it's kind of the first because you got to think the first one is New Year's, and then the next one it's my birthday week. So I usually take about 3 weeks to get myself aligned with what's going on in my life in the new year. And I had my first week back I teach at this school named the Center for Creative Education, if you guys didn't know. And this was my first full week back, kind of getting myself in alignment with everything that's going on. And one of the things that I picked up on is a certain feud, which is common in the education industry. It's common in the fitness industry. It's obviously common in the athletics world, seeing how we started the show. There's a feud and like a meeting of the minds in terms of a particular staff member wants to run this program and then other staff members like it, but they're not as supportive of it. They just kind of let them go do their thing. And then they have this program that they want to be supportive of it. And then the X one isn't there. And although it's a feud that isn't necessarily becoming so catastrophic to date, I personally have seen where that kind of feud and that kind of tension creates more tension, creates more tension to eventually people lose their business. And because I am the person that I am who's seen it, I can diagnose it. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because, again, I have my HR expert, my HR professional here that I get the pleasure of chatting with every single Sunday to discuss or kind of talk about ways in which we can stop these things before they get too big. Because what it leads to, and I'm going to tell you guys directly, what it leads to is catastrophic mistakes that can't be undone. And I'll give you this example and I'll kick it over to Kimberly. Yesterday, I ran a half marathon, right? And When I tell you, if you looked at my post, that wasn't bullshit, guys. I was done. I crossed the finish line and literally had to sit down and lie down on the concrete floor for at least 15 minutes. By the time I was able to get up, I threw up every Gatorade, everything that I had in my body. At that point, I threw up in front of everybody, and it came out. The people who put on the event, they actually mismeasured the marathon, and they put it, we had an extra point 0.5 miles to go, so that added about, for me, it added another four maybe 5 minutes to the run. Not that I'm mad about or complaining about it, but the point is, a mistake was made, and without attention to detail, and people working together, these kinds of things happen. So all that, all that being said, I know Kimberly had some things that she wanted to bring up as well, so I'll give you the mic to do that.
All right, thank you. So, that falls right in line with
Yes.
the TikTok ban. We couldn't say anything about like what's glaring in the world. And,
Hmm.
I was telling, a friend of mine, I said, look, I said, this isn't just social media for some people.
Right.
We spoke about it when we got on earlier. This is a way of life, and people got used to going there. They would share their families, but more importantly, some parents had part-time jobs making money to pay for the sports, making money to, support their families. Some are full-timers. This is such a big disruption. But what is the root cause? Because that's what you always have to go to. And the
Hmm.
root cause is that our government decided that they were going to control how we make our income and take away our freedom of speech and say, I'm banning it because we don't own it, we can't control it, and so
Hmm.
therefore you can't use it. But it's impacted millions of Americans.
So
And so the
I'll
leadership
tell you
making
the
decisions.
I'll tell you the story because again, yesterday I'm at Duffy's. I'm watching. I'm not a big TikTok user. I have it, and the way my stuff comes out, it's a scheduler app. There are times where I post stuff I don't even see when it comes out. There might be actual posts coming out right now as we're talking because I batch this stuff. I preload. I don't spend all day scrolling. Right. So, uh, I I need you to educate me in terms of what this brought about. Now, I've heard since it's banned, I've heard that it was a situation where the person who runs TikTok isn't willing to sell it to U.S. people or something to that effect, and that's what led to the ban. But I need you to kind of educate me on, or educate whether it's myself or anybody that's listening on how this feud came about, and then we can kind of kind of go from there.
It came about from security. So,
Hmm.
what the U.S.'s stance is that it's not secure, that they're stealing our information, and it's not safe for us to use. And, that's where it started. It has
Hmm.
nothing to do with him not selling it. He hours. I mean, he spoke very well, the president of TikTok, and said, look, we're not stealing the information. We have these measures in place. And
Hmm.
they just keep denying it. Because, it's a bigger than just oh, we don't want you to use an app. A lot of people went in there. This is their community where they
Hmm.
could talk about, say, the drones or the fires,
Hmm.
and they feel like they were getting, whether true or not, okay, whether
Right.
you believe it or not believe it, this is
Right.
how the people felt. I
Hmm.
mean, for example, this is the perfect one I could think of that came instantly to mind
Right.
was, North Carolina. People are still living in tents right now. People still
Yeah.
don't have fresh water.
Because of the hurricane, right?
Right. And that's their only outlet to reach people.
Mm.
That's it. That's how they get help. And so
Hmm.
that's why there's such an uproar, and
Hmm.
again, it all stems from the leadership making a decision, making a mistake, and not
Hmm.
looking at the bigger picture and just staying focused on this is not safe. And
Mm.
once they made up their mind, that was it. They didn't want to hear anything else.
Hmm.
And that's what happens in businesses and in companies is that sometimes you might hear or get advice from someone and you just blindly go with it without doing your own research, without finding out for yourself, hey, is this going to work for my company and my business?
Hmm.
And that's really where it starts. You have to be really discerning when you're making decisions like that.
So when you say leaders, because what I've been hearing for the past couple hours since it's been down is that Trump can is likely to grant like a 90-day probationary period where it's back on or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm always kind of, because I didn't really keep up with the story like that. Are you saying that the people who are well, as of the next less than 24 hours right now, the current administration, were they were they more so trying to keep people from saying what they wanted to say on it? So now, because they had no control over the speech and the freedom of speech or whatever it is that they wanted to put out there, because they had no control over that, they wanted some control so they can actually control the narrative. Is that kind of, am I moving in the right direction there?
Going to be an unpopular opinion, but yes, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
They don't have control over it, and that's the reason why they state security. But
Right.
again, that core reason was because they didn't have control.
Yeah. Now, I don't, well, it might be unpopular to some, but I really don't look at it as much as politics, as much as it is actually more so a business owner thing, and things that business owners need to be understanding as we're moving forward. Because again, I grew up right there, Silver Spring, Maryland, right in the heart of all of this politics, business, and everything. And the one thing that my dad would always tell me every single time we would see again, if we're speaking in football terms, every time we see the RFK Stadium go from RFK to FedEx Field, or Baltimore Ravens Stadium go to M&T Bank Stadium, you name it, he would tell me all the time, corporations are taking over. And it's become even more true in 2025, where businesses are actually who's running the world. It's not the government. All right. Business owners, the fact that a corporation has the money to do what they want to do, that's who's taking over the world. If you look at the inauguration that's going to be happening in 24 hours, think about the tech giants that are going to be there. The guy who runs TikTok in China, he's going to be there. Mark Zuckerberg's going to be there. Elon Musk obviously going to be there. All the major, Jeff Bezos, all of the tech giants are going to be there. And the reason I'm laying all this out is because you, as a business owner, you need to develop some level of control. We're not telling you go left or go right. What we are
Right.
telling you is control is key. And having a huge TikTok following does not mean you're in control. As you can see, having a
No,
huge Instagram following does
no,
not mean you're in control. That means the tech companies are in control. So the
that's
question
right.
now has to become, you as a business owner, how are you developing control? I didn't say silence people, because that's kind of the way it's being communicated, but developing control on who's walking in your doors, who you're communicating with, who you're putting in front of whatever service, and how your products are getting out there and things of that nature. That should, in my opinion, that should be the biggest takeaway from all of this, is that, look at that, snap of the fingers, and now your
Done.
TikTok following doesn't
Yes.
mean a damn thing. And I even heard the shark, I was listening to an interview, not the shark, what's his name, the one of the people that have been on Shark Tank. Is it Robert? Mr. Wonderful. Yeah, Mr. Wonderful was, I guess he's one of the people that's been involved with it, because he has so many businesses out there. And he goes, look, if TikTok is down for even 1 hour, that could be the end of the entire company, because it's
Yes.
that easy to simply go from TikTok to go to your Facebook account, to go to your Instagram account, and be done with it and never actually look back on it. So I guess the question I would have for you is, what advice, as an HR professional, what advice do you give people in regards to making sure they're not becoming too dependent on building their business on somebody else's land, or building their company, or building their identity with somebody else's platform?
So, number one, it starts with a strong foundation,
Hmm.
process and discipline. That's where you have to start, process and
Hmm.
discipline. And as things change and as things come up, like this, for example,
Right.
you have to pivot quickly and take action and execute it. That's
Hmm.
it. That is so simple that you would think of, but when you have so many different opinions,
Right.
sometimes leaders kind of pause. And yes, you have to take good advice, but you also have to use your brain
Hmm.
and heart, because you are leading people. And so you have to move quickly and set up process and discipline that can apply to any situation and pivot as needed.
Hmm.
Leaning on, one platform or another, I always
Right.
say when it comes to like recruiting, you have to go to where the people are, but
Hmm.
that can change and you have to be ready to change. So you have to still old school ways, but people say it, you have to build relationships. That's how you win. build the relationships.
Okay,
Because
so
it wouldn't
on
matter if
that.
TikTok went down.
Right, that's what I'm saying. On that point of structure and discipline, this is what I've actually had to live through over the past couple months. It's funny to think about it now because there was a person who at this point I no longer even associate with. We because of the election, we don't even speak. He doesn't speak to me. He hasn't spoken to me since the election, which is ridiculous in my opinion.
It
It's
is.
another black man. But every single day, and other co-workers can actually vouch and confirm this, it'd be at least 5 to 6 different TikToks that he's sending me about why Trump is the worst person in the world, about why we need to go and move left, why we like every single day. And again, the problem with doing that is these TikToks are they're what, like maybe 3 minutes long, less if so
If
many.
that,
But
right,
yeah, you're not getting the full context, and you have people who, like you just said, don't have the structure and discipline to actually have a conversation with an individual and
right,
say, hey, this is my thoughts, this is what I believe, this is what you believe, and the two of us actually come to a conclusion, whether we agree or we don't agree. It doesn't affect a friendship. It doesn't affect a possibility of us working together. Instead, you have these little apps and these little platforms where people are just using to come up with their own narratives and try to make up their own stories based on some
yeah,
TikTok video. And that, in my opinion, it speaks exactly, and I'm bringing this up because it speaks exactly to what you said, is if not used correctly, and I'm honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm happy that there's going to be some structure to it because it came during a time during COVID and the world was all over the place. But what needs to happen is there needs to be somebody stepping up and say, hey, we got to control this platform because it's creating a division amongst us. It's creating a division because you get certain narratives and get certain things that are being spun based on some TikTok video. It's funny because I'm laughing now only because between my mother and father, they're really not internet people. Obviously, that was before their time. But I was talking to her one day. She goes, "Yeah, I saw that on one of them TikTok thing," and I'd be laughing. But yeah,
but you
so
know what? We also get that on the
yeah,
news.
yeah,
So
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Like it's like
you
let's
have to
look
be
at this
careful
TikTok.
with your sources.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we use it as if it's a legitimate news source, and somebody or something has to be done to where it
Right.
keeps people from being divided. And that when you mention people running their businesses through TikTok, I really want you to speak on a little bit why I guess why that can be a mistake, or what advice, not to say don't have one, but why that would be. Actually, you know what, here's what I did today, guys, because I've become versed at using Chat GPT. I have pre-questions loaded, so we might as well just go ahead and get into the questions right now.
All right, let
Uh,
me answer that question. So when I
yeah,
talked
go ahead.
about
I'll let you
businesses,
answer that question, and then
yep. So
we'll start because I see we're running up on 10 minutes. So go
yep,
ahead.
we are. All right. So when I said run businesses, this is more like individuals. So there are companies that advertise, of course, because again, you advertise where your core audience is. But these were individuals. These were parents. These are sisters, brothers. These and that became a company from doing whatever content or whatever they were selling.
Hmm.
So that's what I was talking about when I was
Okay,
saying
so all
run
right, right.
business.
So they became
All right.
because they were getting sales through TikTok. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Hmm.
All right. You got
Is
some
that it?
questions? Oh yeah, that
Oh,
was
okay. You
it.
got the question. No, I didn't know. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but
Yeah,
I
no,
actually
I wanted
I
to
want to.
clarify it. That's
Yeah, I
all.
want to add that. I want to add to that too, though. She said the key word sales, folks. Sales, receipt. You're not getting. There's no there's no receipts for anybody hitting the like button or commenting. It's actual sales and calling people. That's what it has to be. So all of this, I don't care what the new app is. You can call it whatever the new app is going to be. If you're not generating sales, then you're not in business. All right. Period. Point blank. So let's get into the questions. First off, how to handle work feuds causing repeated mistakes. I'll go and then you go. Here is
That-
what you have to do, because this is one of my specialties. Again, you guys heard at the beginning, I grew up as a damn Redskins fan. I've seen 7 different head coaches. I've seen owners come in and out, GMs come in and out. Grew up in the football world. How to handle work feuds causing repeated mistakes. You have got to have regular meetings. Maybe it's 15 minutes or less, but they need to be happening every single day. You need to be consistently having meetings, at least, like I said, at least 15 minutes a day, temperature checks on where everyone is at a particular day. All right. You don't know what a person is going through that day. You just mentioned again, you mentioned your dog, you mentioned family situations, you mentioned all sorts of things that are going on in the home. You got to make sure you're temperature checking people when they walk into your doors. One of the things that, again, I'm always using college football as an example, is because every day before practice, we as a position group, we would watch the film of the previous practice, and then we would go out there and practice the next day. The next day, same thing. We're not just running out there and practicing. We're watching ourselves, studying, and then we're going to the next level. That's how you avoid these repeated mistakes, all right? So go ahead. I can go on a tangent with this one, but go ahead. I'll let you go.
Well, that does take process and discipline, you know. So
Hmm.
some people may not be able to meet five, every day, whether it's 5 minutes, you know. So if you can walk around your building, it depends on the size of the business, right? So if it's feasible, at least, hey, how are you doing? And walk around,
Yeah.
say hi, give people the opportunity. But before all of that, you have to create that atmosphere. That
Hmm.
is really, people say open door, but they really don't mean open door. They
Hmm.
mean, I need you to follow it this way only.
Hmm.
So an open door means if I am not having a good day, then I feel comfortable enough to tell you that.
Hmm.
And that's the environment that you create. By doing that, people feel comfortable going to their supervisor or their manager or the owner and talking about situations, and people talk to each other. You have to build that framework, and part of that framework is teamwork. So
And
you
just
talk
to
about
clarify,
repeat.
yeah,
God,
just to clarify too, if it is a big company, then each department needs to be having the meeting as a small group, so you know what's
yes,
expected of you of the higher up. So when you speak about, when I use the example of a football team, I was one of the linebackers. So the linebacker crew were meeting before practice. It's what, maybe 7 or 8 of us that are sitting there watching film to make sure we're not making the same mistake. That way, when we get on the field and we go against the offense, we all see what's expected of us during that particular time. You get into the game and then we're all working together. That needs to happen regardless. If you have a big company like that and you don't take it upon yourself as the manager of a small department to meet with your crew every day and not know, and they don't know the expectation of them every single day, you will lose. You will not make it,
yes,
because the higher ups are only seeing what's presented to them, what the results are, what the numbers are. And if
mhm,
it's not hitting where it needs to be hitting, goodbye. Goodbye to that department, especially if it's a
yep,
department that's not necessarily leading to more sales. If it's like a luxury department, or a department that can easily be cut and their bottom line still be met without you being involved. So
yep,
that's what I meant.
yeah, 100%. I agree, because if you don't have a pulse on your people
Mhm.
are the ones that's going to break you or make you. And you
Right.
can't be afraid to have tough conversations, but you have to build that team first. So,
Right.
first, look at yourself. What can I do differently? How can I
Mhm.
execute differently? How can I set the expectations? You had the head on that one. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't even know, what am I supposed to do today, or what I'm supposed to do daily. Well, if you
Mhm.
don't have SOPs, if you don't have good training, people are going to be all over the place. They're not going to know what to do. So, set the expectations,
Mhm.
check in regularly, and pivot and execute whatever the mission is that you're doing, daily, every day.
Yeah, well, the reason I put this one up, because it sort of, we sort of answered this one as we were talking. It says effective methods to resolve conflicts and effective performance. The key part about this one, it's performance. All right. One of the things that I have witnessed going from fitness to education is there's not at all a measurable on performance. See, back in fitness days, the performance would be measured based on how many members you were actually convinced to walk into the gym and memberships that were sold. Now, unfortunately, performance is test based, and you are now in a situation, we're talking specifically education, that you're putting pressure on teachers to make it so certain kids are getting a certain score on a certain test, and that's the quote unquote performance. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to speak to this one a little bit, because what I found is as business owners, you are missing the measurables. You need to find a more specific measurable for your team every day that they can hit in order to make sure that they're actually that you know that they're actually doing the job.
So everyone works at a different level. So some people
Hmm.
could be high performers, some people could be low performers, even though they may be doing their job, they're not doing as effective as say that A player. And that's
Hmm.
okay. You know,
Yes.
but it does create dissension if those poor performers aren't being addressed and for whatever that is. You know,
Hmm.
so when you set those measurables, when you set their goals, then you have to hold them to it
Yes.
because that is part of creating a team that you hold each
Yes.
other accountable, but you
Hmm.
have to hold them accountable. Don't wait. The first time they don't meet their goals, then you have a conversation. Hey,
Right.
what's going on? Is it a training issue or is it an I don't care issue? So you have to identify all those things and quickly and address
Hmm.
quickly so it
Right.
does not create that dissension because that's
Right.
what does. Oh, look, Kimberly's over here. She's not doing, her part in our team,
Yeah.
but she's been allowed to do that for 5 years. So what's going to
Right.
change? Nothing, you
Right.
know? And
Now, how
so
do
the
you
leaders
feel
really need
about
to execute that quick.
how you feel about potentially with business owners specifically tailoring the measurables based on the actual person? Because this one can get sticky. If you have a startup company or something that just started up and you're so desirable, you have so much ambition to build this company, you're just literally bringing in anybody and you don't really even know the people that are coming in. So it's hard for you to figure out what measurable to give a person because you've just kind of opened up the door for anybody to be hired. How do you coach people through making sure that they're tailoring the measurables based on what's actually available?
I would not recommend that.
Really?
So I would say you need to cycle back and then look
Mhm.
at your framework and you have to do the research to see if I'm going to reach this goal, this is what I need to do to reach this goal. And
Mhm.
we'll pivot as times change because we have to. But the same that same measurable should be the same across the board. So either
Wow.
they train up and they get to that goal, or
Right.
they're just not the right fit, and you need to find someone else. Now, I'm not saying that they may not be a right fit for a different role, right?
Mhm.
You never want to lose someone, so you try to see will they fit in another part of the organization. But
Right.
if they're not, and if there's not, it's just not a good fit, and move on. And you have to do that quickly if you want a high performing team.
Man, that's facts. That's facts. Because again, you guys, especially I know, again, I've been there as business owners. You want your company to work. You love the fact that people are interested in working and want to help. But because of that love for your own business, you start to kind of start to compromise on your actual performance and your measurables just to have a human person there, just to have a body there, and ultimately that costs you in the long haul. And
Yep.
that brings us to the next question, is because when you have that dynamic, when you have people who you like you just mentioned, you have this measurable and somebody doesn't have this measurable, it creates that word right there,
Right.
hostile work environment. And I'll give you a personal example from my end. Back when I was training at 9 Round, when I first put my book out, there was another colleague who, he was the quote unquote man. He was the person that knew how to teach people how to do the mitts and all that. But you don't necessarily normally see a trainer becoming a great trainer and then also, developing the intellectual property world. And in his own head, he just didn't buy a book. He didn't. He refused to acknowledge it. The people were coming in and buying books, and I just had another dynamic to my business, and the interaction between he and I became very hostile. And it became a very hostile work environment. So, that there's a reason that business is no longer in business, why it actually shut down. So the question I actually have for you is, how do you recommend? Let's kind of put yourself in the ownership's seat there. How do you recommend de-escalating hostile interactions? Because obviously that'll lead to a level of a place where just nobody wants to be in, including customers. Nobody wants
Right.
to be in an environment that's just hostile where people are going in at each other.
So it starts again with the framework and what are you leading? How are you leading your people? Are you getting their buy in for the changes that you're making? We're not
Hmm.
always going to agree with something, but the leader sets the tone of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So if
Right.
there's two coworkers that are bickering about something, find
Hmm.
out the core reason. Most times it's not what you think it is. And if it is about performance, think about the person that takes on the work that poor performer is not doing. And when
Hmm.
somebody says something, they're like, oh, well, I do all their work and it's not fair. I need to get paid more money. And
Right.
so it starts a feud, and then other people join in. People want to pick
Hmm.
sides.
There's
And so
gossip. Mhm.
immediately the leader needs to sit down with both of them and talk it out, find out,
Mhm.
and then separately, because getting to the root cause is how you're going to fix it. And then
Right.
if there's something that I did as a leader, I'm going to say, you know what, I let you down because I didn't address the poor performance. I didn't, address the hostile work environment. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to say that and say, but moving forward, this is the expectation. We're
Right.
going to work together. And if we can't do that, I'm going to handle the poor performance, but I need you to quit the attitude and creating a work environment that people don't want to be in.
Right.
That has to be done though the minute you see it, because the longer it goes, you mentioned like a customer coming in. I've had that situation. You walk into a store and you're like, whoa, the tension here's so thick. You could cut it with a knife.
Hmm.
So it should have never got to that level if it was
Right.
being addressed appropriately.
Right. And on that note, I have a lot I couldn't say on that, but we're running low on time. But on that note, I'll just put this out there as an owner. You don't get to participate in the damn gossip with them, okay? Because
That's
that's
right.
that's
You
almost
can't
the
fix it.
opposite. You can't fix it if you're gonna be the one that's creating the damn gossip and creating the tension. But again, I'll go on a
Yes.
tangent on that. You guys just look me up. I've spoken on that quite a bit in the past. But final question here is probably the most important one: is how to rebuild trust after repeated mistakes. Because number one, mistakes are inevitable. They're going to happen. It's part of life. It's
Right.
part of business. And the great thing I love about this question is, I had a linebackers coach that would tell us all the time, we don't have a problem with you guys making mistakes. The problem we're going to have is if you do the same thing after we told you not to do it. When it comes to rebuilding trust after repeated mistakes, I'm really curious to hear your answer on this or hear how you address this, because that word repeated for me is a trigger word. And if it's continuing to be repeated, it means someone is genuinely giving you the proverbial finger and not giving an F about what you just told them to do, or else it wouldn't keep happening. At what point does that word repeated become to get to the point where you're like, look, I gotta move on and find something else?
Right. So just like before, once you set the measurables and they're not being met, you meet with the person, you say, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? But
Yeah,
that onus also belongs to the employee,
yeah,
the worker that says, you know what, I'm going through ABC, or I'm having a hard time understanding. You have to open your mouth if you need the training.
yeah. Mm.
So that's how I would handle it. And if they don't improve, then they need to go in a performance plan and then they need to exit the building. That's how it handled. You don't keep repeating and
Yeah,
not having, a resolution. That's the
right.
definition of insanity.
Yes, and it's crazy because it keeps going back to measurables, and all of this
Yes.
stuff can be working from within. Do not think that kind of the way, and you could choose to agree. Let me know if I hit the nail on this one, but I think the takeaway from this entire 30 minutes on today's episode is do not compromise on your measurables. Don't compromise on them, and make sure you are clearly communicating them with whoever is willing to work in your space. You have to have them so you have something to measure every single day. If not, then you're literally just taking however you're making your money, you're taking the money and you're at risk because I'll actually even show you guys at any given moment. Let me see because I offloaded it. Let me see how long it's going to take. Unable to. Oh, damn. All right. So I offloaded, but it says unable to even install TikTok at this point. And thank God,
Yeah.
it wasn't really a primary driver of my business. But again, if you let these little things drip over time, eventually it becomes a situation where it's unsolvable, and now you got to go and pivot and rebuild and do something else. So my heart goes out to anyone who's actually was really making a income and building their business only via through TikTok. But it's important that you listen to today's message and make sure, hey, look, if I'm going to be in this thing, if I'm going to be building this thing, Nothing. I don't care what the app is. Nothing's gonna make it so I don't have to get uncomfortable anymore. Nothing's gonna make it so I don't have to go out and get sales in me. Nothing's gonna make it so I don't have to go and talk to strangers. These are the things that you have to develop, regardless of how
Yes.
cool the new technology is, because there's always going to be some, guys. It's always going to be some. But the core, like Kimberly has mentioned throughout this entire 30 minutes, the core, the foundation, and everything you're about, all of that stuff is going to be built within and what you're actually selling and how much you actually believe in it. So let me shut myself up before I go on a tangent, before I get going again. Is there anything? I'll give you the last word today.
Just remember to build that foundation and keep building on top of it. And only bring people on your team that understand the mission and they're executing the mission daily. If you need help building your framework or rebuilding your framework, I'm happy to help. Visit ardentHRsolutions.com. And
All
see you
right, you
guys
guys
Sunday.
know.
Another great episode.
Another great episode. You guys already know where to find me. You know, I'm here 5 days a week now. Every single morning we hit it. We got a lot to get to today. We got the damn national championship, college football game. We got the inauguration happening, Martin Luther King Day. All of that happening on the same day, folks. And then we got, of course, my Commanders on. We got a lot of stuff to get through. So just stay tuned. We'll be here for it all, covering it all. Everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We'll talk more soon.
Till next time.
Mm-hmm.